Good to go.
Well, good evening, everybody. It is the 6th of January, 2024, and welcome to a brand new live stream show called Duality, which will be streaming live on, I think it's your Friday, it's my Saturday morning, and I'm in New Zealand. We're going to be streaming on Rumble and on YouTube, and we are going to be talking about all things opposite, dualities, right? And so, just to get going, I would like to first start off by thanking very much John and Roger from the wonderful world of weirdness who have made this possible for me. John has owned the Wonderful World of Weirdness channel for quite a few years and has built it up to be a really interesting and informative show of all sorts of different types of content. And Roger has very recently come on board as a co-owner, and they have helped me to start doing this show of my own. So, gentlemen, thank you very, very much indeed, and thank you for being with me here tonight.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate you letting me be here with you. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
You're very quiet, Roger.
I'm very quiet.
Yeah, you were. I better know.
You never told me I was ever quiet a day of my life, John. It's like
That was the first time.
Okay. So.
Okay, so how's it now? Are we still got quietness there, or are we?
Yeah, we got quiet.
All good on the stream here anyway.
Okay.
Stream is perfect.
So what's the topic today for us?
All right.
bobdub?
So yes, the topic for us today, what I want to start with, is that love is the core of masculinity. And I have been thinking around this topic because I've been trying to come up with an article that I've been writing. And it's really an important concept for me, because I have been doing this research into duality and into the main forces that govern the universe. Of course, the first set of main forces is good and evil. And these are conflicting forces that are continually fighting with each other for dominance. And I think that you will have noticed from the videos you've watched on this channel before, that this is a constant theme with many of us, is that we strive for positivity, we strive for goodness, we fight all our lives against evil. But there is another duality that is very, very important, and that is not talked about and is becoming increasingly more difficult to talk about. And that is the opposition of masculinity and femininity. And it is the second axis. And unlike the axis of good and evil, where there is an oppositional force, the axis of masculinity and femininity is a cooperative force. And you can think of the forces of masculinity and femininity being in a lifelong dance for achieving unity and achieving harmony between them. And why I wanted to choose this as the inaugural topic for tonight, for this show, is that I have experienced personally a very dark night of the soul. And it has been through the most amazing masculine nurturing of me, and guidance and teaching and all sorts of support that has actually brought me from a state of really deep depression and post-traumatic stress disorder on very strong psychiatric medicines and almost unable to function, to a place where I am now, as you can see, starting to like build my life again and move forward. The very first person who I encountered was a guy on minds.com called Willie Leave, who told me that the purpose of life was to love. Shortly after him, I met Chris Dogood. Chris Dogood was an amazing friend to me, and when he saw me wallowing in self-pity and self-destruction, he stepped up and said to me, you know, pull yourself together. And later on, he said, wow, when I did that, I had to really hold my breath because I didn't know how you were going to respond. So he, at a lot of personal risk to himself, reached out to me. He introduced me to Jaffe Ryder, who, as you know, has just had the very, very successful Christmas telethon that he runs every year, which is the Secret Santa. And through Jaffe and Pirate Radio Network, I was introduced to Roger, and then Roger introduced me to John. So it's been this amazing personal experience for me of how I experience it, is how I describe it as being fished out of the pit by God's army. And it has been a very deeply personal, deeply moving experience to discover this type of healing. And yesterday I was reading somewhere about something that it was describing how God was feminine. And it was saying that the reason that God is feminine is that the nature of God is love. And it just made me go back to this article that I've been researching for and discover and again and go into it more deeply and see that in fact love as a divine principle is very, very closely equated with the great masculine axis. So yes, that is my introduction, and I would like to then just hand over to you, Roger, and ask you, what is your perspective on duality and masculinity and femininity? How do you see it?
Well, you mentioned a lot of good things on the topic of feminine and masculinity, and what really stuck out to me was the nurturing part that you were talking about. That is really a strong energy for the feminine aspect of the duality between feminism and masculinity, because like with the feminine, what I've learned is with the feminine energy, nurturing, being receptive, creative, expressive, and being intuitive is a big part of it. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it is. And for me personally, I don't see there. I don't see. Well, let me try to say this the best way I can. I'm getting a lot of chatter too. Hold on a minute. I'll turn that down a little bit. Is that helping out with the chatter sounds?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, how's it for you, John?
Yeah, there's a little bit of I think it's picking up from your mic, Bob, because when Roger was speaking, it was flashing up that you were speaking even though you weren't. So because my mic was turned off. It must be your volume of your computer, maybe.
Okay, now
you can hear it when you're talking. You hear it when others. Maybe I don't know. I just did it a little bit, but otherwise it was fine. It was
happening with me. I smacked my mic around a little bit.
Yeah, my mic was off. Yeah, and I've turned off the stream audio on YouTube this time. I made sure it wasn't me this time.
Okay, let me make sure. Now, what I was referring to on the feminine aspects when it comes to what I was saying is it's the feminine energy. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily just the aspects. It's the energy that comes from the feminine side, which the nurturing comes from. And I personally don't. I think, like I said, I need to say this properly. You know what I mean? Because it's very important. People have to come to an understanding that there's no battle going on between the feminine and the masculine, okay? We all have both aspects within us. And when we deny one or the other, what we're doing is causing frustration for ourselves. Everybody has an aspect that is feminine and one that's masculine. And I think, and I really don't like doing this because a lot of people who make blogs about this topic and they do videos, they always push this. And it always comes out, but it's a reason because it has to be mentioned. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes I think people did when it came to the feminine and the masculine was they connected it to a gender. You know what I mean? They made feminine towards the female and masculine towards the male, and I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that was ever made because we all have a little bit of both, or we all have both in us, you know what I mean? And when there's a conflict going on there, that means that you are denying a part of yourself that's there, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I feel about about what you were discussing that sticks out to me. You know, you have to accept the both parts of it, you know. So with that, I'm just going to let one of you guys talk because I've talked way too much.
Oh, that's a very, very interesting perspective. I really agree with you on that, Roger. And I think that from a psychology point of view, from particularly Jung, he says that men develop their masculine side first, get to midlife, and swap over and start developing their feminine side, whereas women develop their feminine side first and then get to midlife, swap over and start developing their masculine side. So a truly mature person is somebody who's been able to integrate both sides of the axis. And so yes, it is absolutely, and I do want to stress it again that the oppositional forces are good and evil. The cooperative forces are masculine and feminine. So definitely, cooperative. And so, John, would you like to contribute? You've said you don't really have much to say, but I'm sure you do have an opinion.
To be honest, when we're in the spirit realm, when we're not on this planet, so to speak, we're male and female. We're both. We're not one or the other. We're both. And it's, how can I say, when we're compressed into a body on this planet, then because we're born a male, we're told we got to be male. You know, we're sort of like conditioned that we have to be male because we're in a male body. Or if we're in a female body, we're sort of conditioned. You've got to be female. That's the way society is to us. And I agree with what Roger's saying. We've got both sides, both in our nature. It's you find the people that have trouble talking about it are the macho men, you know, big muscles or something like that, you know, and they say, I can't be female. They're just like embracing one part of themselves. It's up to them what they do. Everyone's individual, everyone's who they are. But basically, in our core beings, we're both. We're female and male and female. I say out of this planet, that's what we would be. We'd just be one. Our person, our core, our soul is both. So getting the balance when you're in a human body is the challenge. Then is to get the right balance between the both, in my opinion.
Mm.
So,
and see, for me, I think a lot of people misunderstand what feminine and masculine. Excuse me. What feminine and masculine are. You know what I mean? Like, I was taking down some notes earlier because I didn't want to mess up on this. You know, but when people think of being masculine, they think that it's the big sports guy, you know, the big tough and rumbling guy. But there's a lot more that's classified as masculine. Just like with being feminine, you know, there's more that's involved with the feminine as well. Um, for example, you know, for the feminine aspects of Dharma, that's virtue and purification. You know what I mean? Where the masculine aspects of Dharma is order, customs, duties, rights, laws, and conduct. And you'll find it all within the Hindu writings, and even in the Buddhists, I believe they believe in Dharma too, don't they, bobdub?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, but there's a tons of writing when it comes to the masculine and the feminist. And I was just mentioning it on chat too, to where I was thinking maybe, you know, have a conversation over the Beatitudes out of the New Testament. I mean, there's a lot that you could classify as both feminine and masculine as well. So, I mean, it's everywhere. Like whenever you're like okay, for us example, we're sitting here and we're working on the channel, we're setting up videos and stuff. Every time we go and we organize the videos and we put descriptions on the videos and we do the outlines and set up the introduction and the outros and all that stuff, what we're doing is we're doing a form of masculine work, you know what I mean? Whereas the feminine is more towards like the beauty, you know what I mean? Like in nature, it's the beauty of nature that's the feminine aspect of nature. Whereas the masculine aspect of nature would be the underlying power, you know what I mean? The underlying energies and stuff that's going on. That's the stuff that works behind the scenes. So when you're looking at the beauty in nature, what you're looking at is the feminine aspects of that of nature. You know what I'm saying? So that's and it's hard to explain. It really is hard to explain, but that's the best way I can say it. You know.
It is hard to explain. It is very hard to explain, and it's wonderful that we can do this as a series and unpack these things slowly over the weeks, because it is deeply complex and it does need a very careful examination. And I think that how I see the very broad categories that I put into masculinity and femininity, I feel that masculinity has, as you were saying, Roger, a lot to do with doing things, building things, making things, being out there in the world and getting things done. Whereas the feminine aspects are much more relational and much more, as you were saying earlier, nurturant. And so there are those two very broad categories, but then they're not, again, not related to gender, because even though women and men have very different relationships, have different relationships, they both have relationships. So you can't say having relationships is a feminine characteristic and therefore men are bad at it. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot of real thought and care, I think, to get to the place where you can see what the correct balance is in your life. What do you think, John? You were talking about spiritual balance. Do you think that sort of growth of spirituality and the growth of maturity is related to your sort of development of your femininity and masculinity?
To be honest, I'm not sure, because I never I'm not good at categorizing things. I just see things in black and white, so I don't really know. I don't think oh, because of part of me I'm like this, or part of me I don't think that way. It might something I can explain. I was just thinking what you were saying then, and I just thought I can't really, because that's just the way I am. It's everything's in black and white to me. I just am what I am, and obviously I'm obviously a man. I'm born into a man's body, and what have you. But I just am what I am. You know, I'm not, and I can't really. I find it hard to categorize it because I just not something I've ever really thought about. But I don't know. I do agree though. Conflicting, suppressing part of yourself, if you be a female side or a male side, I don't think people should do that. They should try and find a balance. They don't have to go outside in the world and say, "Oh, I'm embracing my female side." You don't have to do that. You can just do it in your own home. You just in your own mind, whatever, you know. But I do think, yeah, you're asking for trouble if you sort of, from a spiritual point of view as well, because any sort of suppression of emotions, like male or female sides, any type of suppression is bad for your soul. It's bad for you. It's not good. So, in that sense, that's all I really got to say about that.
Now, like, whenever it comes to, like, masculine attributes, though, especially when it comes to society, it encompasses things like courage, decisiveness, protection, responsibility, authority, bravery, honor, and it also it's the establishment of law and order. So when you're talking about stuff like that, you're talking about the masculine aspects of society itself, you know what I mean? So I mean that's kind of what I'm getting into about, like, people really don't understand the full implications of what being masculine is and what being feminine is, you know. And like I was talking about nature and the masculine aspects of it. That's the force that's behind the beauty. You know what I mean? Like, you got gravitation, you got buoyancy, electrostatic, and stuff like that. You know, that's going on behind the scenes that you don't see. So that would be the masculine aspects of nature, where the beauty of nature itself would be the feminine. So, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
So.
But I was just thinking, as you were talking, I've been thinking about hormones. We both share each other's hormones, don't we? Yeah. We all have the same hormones, just in different quantities.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, what you're saying, John, about trying to make categories, it is terribly artificial. Because how do you say, like, this is the amount of hormones for that? I mean, it is a sort of thing that's always in flux, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I suppose that's true. Yeah, that would make sense. And then some people, obviously, either way, female or male, they might have a more of a balance of male hormones than female, and so on, and that can cause conflict. And yes, I could get that. I do understand that. Yeah, there's something I was going to say about that line, and it's gone. Yeah, and test. I can't say it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. That is supposed to be higher in men than women as a rule. Again, but again, there's going to be situations where women are higher than men, and so on and so on. You know, it's all. I think it's to do with female body and the male body as well. Because I think if the man has got too much of the female hormone, and then he developed breasts and stuff like that, and then I'm not sure how it works the other way around, but I'm sure there's some sort of balance the other way around as well. But you know, as well.
Mm-hmm. But also, Roger, you say when you mentioned bravery and the other sort of like feelings almost. Mm-hmm. What was it? What were those things that you were saying that were masculine? Those attributes. No. Yes, the attributes that are. But women have them as well.
Well,
it's not that women are.
It goes back to what I was saying, though. See, you're classifying according to gender. That was the biggest mistake that men and women have always done, and we just naturally do it. So
Yes.
you have those masculine attributes as well as I do, and there's not more or less. We have those attributes. It's just you've been born into a society that tells you that since you're a female, you need to wear pink and you need to act like a girl.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Now,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and that's what I was getting at with that. Okay, you have those aspects in your life. It's just like with the feminine. Since I've mentioned the masculine, let me get into the feminine a little bit. Okay. Now, a lot of men out there, they're all tough and everything, but if they think of themselves as being intelligent, then they're using a feminine aspect of their selves, because being intelligent is a feminine aspect. Okay, so if you're intelligent, then that means you're using a feminine aspect in your life. You know what I mean? Communication skills, being able to talk to another person and being able to be coherent to where people can actually, understand what you're saying. That is the feminine aspect as well. So then you've got emotions. You guys are talking about emotions. That's all feminine. Anything that's related to emotions whatsoever. If you're feeling emotions, then you're using a feminine aspect of yourself. That's not masculine. That's feminine. So and these qualities, they contribute to our society with what they do is they foster diversity and understanding. Basically, you know what I mean. Without them, that we couldn't do anything when it comes to being diverse and people of different genders and ages and cultures. We couldn't be around each other if we didn't use those feminine aspects in our lives. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to go over the feminine aspects. I was talking about the masculines at first, so I wanted to cover that because that's something else. And then there's the other stuff that really is everybody basically knows is feminine, like color. Everybody knows that's true, And then you have love, which actually I think love is a mix of both of them, to be honest with you. I don't think it's one or the other. It's an intertwining of the two. It's kind of like marriage, you know what I mean? So.
You're beautiful. Cute girl. Is it a girl, John? Was it a boy?
It's a boy, Bruno. God, what's that? Well, I have to take him back.
He's getting tough.
With is my partner. She can hold him, cradle him like a baby, and he'll settle straight away. I can't. I hold him. He's trying to get out. He won't stay still at all.
That's awesome.
Well, you see, that's the difference between men and women.
Yeah.
Women are really good at putting babies to sleep. Men are really good at playing with kids. It's just like, it's not something that you have to work at. It's just that we do have different things that come to us more easily.
Oh, yeah. I think he's eyeing up your cat. Look, he must have there. There's a cat there. Yeah. Sit up, sit you up. See you. See, there we are.
Oh, well. So it's different from the bodies, because our bodies do have different amounts of hormones in them. So there's an amount of sort of biological masculinity and femininity, which is driven by our chemistry. But it seems to me that what you're saying, Roger, is that there are other aspects that we have which are not dependent on our biology, and that we have in equal quantities. So, for instance, a man can be as nurturant as a woman can, So they can both have a female attribute. And a woman can be as courageous as a man can, so they can both have a masculine characteristic. Am I right? Did I understand you right?
Yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to, and I think the whole mix-up in it is the fact that all of this has been classified according to gender. You know, it always comes back to that because it's one of the biggest mistakes we ever had. We were talking in chat about Gaia, you know what I mean, and about pagan religions. You know, pagan religions started out, from what I'm understanding, where they were actually feminine in nature, and they became masculine as time went on. And the reason why that happened was because a lot of the deities were moon gods. They worshiped moon gods, and as time went on, they went from worshiping lunar gods to solar gods, worshiping the sun. You know what I mean? I don't know how true that is, because a lot of that kind of has astronomy and stuff like that mixed into it. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting how all that works. So, I'm still kind of getting into that aspect and learning about it. So, I'm not gonna, don't quote me on it, basically, is what I'm saying.
Mm. I've read similar things to that. I've read that the very early European religions were the Druidic religions, and they counted by the stars, and their religions were feminine, and they were very peaceful sort of cultures. And a lot of the gods, the gods were very, very, very female gods. It was a lot about having babies, you know, making sure that your offspring survived, because there was no modern medicine, and most children died at childbirth. So for a human society to be viable, the breeding population had to be very, very well looked after. And so, so those were the original aim of the society, was very feminine. It was breeding. But then later on, when they had these very big established agrarian societies in Europe that were very, very based on these female understandings, they then were faced with a huge crisis when they had a whole lot of men that sort of immigrated from different places, because they had run out of land in their original lands of their birth. So they had these great big sort of migrations of male-dominated warring tribes, who obviously were motivated by achievement and conquering and domination and winning. And so there was one of the very first clashes of spiritual sort of like ideologies, if you like. And one of the reasons where we got these ideas in our culture, that male and female ideas and ways of being are in opposition to each other instead of cooperating with each other.
Now, like, I really got in there. I haven't done it lately, but I've really got in deep with Göbekli Tepe. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, all right? But the structures they had there, they've been scrutinizing them, and they've started doing research on them, and they say that a lot of those structures are built in the shape of a female womb. And don't get me wrong. I know we're supposed to be family friendly and everything, but it's the truth. It's what they are, and that right there is a good example of what you're discussing and what I'm discussing too when it comes to the female aspect or the feminine aspect of when it comes to history and ancient history on top of it and these deities and what they worshipped. And you were spot on with what you were saying, you know. But that's a really good example of all that. And at some point, they went from going from, well, like the Sumerians, okay? A lot of people don't realize the Sumerians didn't have a king at first. Like, they supported themselves as a community, but then later on they decided that they needed to have a leader, and that's when they eventually started having a leader. But in the beginning they weren't. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? They governed themselves. They were a peaceful society, and they didn't need the order and the law. And well, they might have had laws maybe, but it wasn't to the extent that it was later on.
Later on, yes. Yes. Well, I think that this is one of the strange things that we do have when we're talking about duality, is that we always have to bear in mind that there is a duality of dualities. There is the cooperating forces and there is the competition between forces. And so to talk about things in a very simple dual way doesn't really incorporate the whole nuance of the situation, because there are a lot of ways in which competition breeds cooperation. Like, because you're competing with each other, you realize that you need each other to sort of reach your full potential. So it's a really interesting cyclical, sort of almost spherical kind of concept that you have to keep in mind, that these things are really deep and difficult to weed all these little strands apart and sort of really see the inner workings of the sort of complex side of these structures.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you on that, and it's like I said, you know, you look at it from the aspect where one can't work without the other too. You know what I mean? Like, do you really want a society where there isn't like protection or responsibility or authority? You know what I mean? Do you really want a society that doesn't have law and order? You know what I mean? Those are the things you have to ask yourself. I mean, it's okay to be feminine, but you also have to say to yourself, hold on a minute. You know what I mean? I need the masculine aspects of life as well. We all want law and order, you know? So I think there's a balance there, you know? And that's very important to remember. Because you can't, I mean, it's like a dance, like you said in the beginning, you know, it really is. It's a dance. It's a dance between the male, or the masculine and the feminine. So I usually call it masculine. I don't know why. I always have. But it's hard for me to say masculine. I don't know why.
Oh, we get what you're saying. So when you say dance, that brings up another subject that's very tricky to talk about these days. When you dance, one of the partners leads the dance, and that's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And people are very, very touchy these days about accepting that the outgoing and dominant force is the masculine force. They feel that that's sort of somehow unfair. But within cooperation, there isn't really, it isn't really just or valid to talk about that sort of rivalry, is it? Surely we should graciously accept that there must be a starting point. There must be a leadership role within these structures.
Well, I think it's.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I almost.
I think that's down to conditioning as well. 100 years ago, it will always be the male would, like you just said, lead the dance, what have you. That was the way everyone was brought up. Now, society like it is, people just don't want to live by them rules anymore. And in a way, it's sort of, in some ways, even though I find it all unsettling when there's about 30 different genders now, and it's confusing how people, I do find, to me, because it's always been two, in my opinion, I do like think what the hell's going on a bit. But in other ways, I suppose I can understand where they're coming from, because you're conditioned to be a male or female, as I said earlier, and it's like now you get like the freedom. Oh, am I going to identify as this, or which make of that what you will. So in a sense, it allows you, if you're a man, it allows you to be more female than male if you want to, and female if you want to be more male than female. You've got more of I suppose, a platform to do it in the generation that we're like in now than we could like 30 years ago. Just if you come out and when I was born, if you come out and said, "Oh, I'm deciding now I'm going to be a female," and you were a man, you'd just be shot or something. Like, you know what I mean? This doesn't happen. But like now, it's just like society's more like open for you to be the person you want to be, and it might be like harder for us because we're being brought up in an older generation when things were just like, as I said, there was just two genders, that was it. But I can sort of see where these youngsters are coming from, I hope it settles down a bit, because at the moment it's quite like crazy, and stuff the way it goes on. But I do get where it's coming from. I can sort of understand why. It's probably years of like being repressed. You told you can't be like this, you can't be like that, and it just this is the end result. This is what happens because of being repressed and what have you. And so that's like my view on it, I think.
I'm really impressed that you said something, because like I've never really heard you like making a serious conversation like that, like out, you know what I mean? And that's really impressive, John, because you usually avoid talking about stuff like that. I mean, that's pretty cool. I just wanted to say that. That was awesome.
Awesome conversation, this conversation. Another thing that I'd like to ask you about, okay, before, because I know we're drawing it towards the end of the time and I could go for another 4 hours, but the original topic that I introduced was that love is the core of masculinity. And you started off, Roger, by saying that you thought that females were much more nurturant and caring. And that has been running through my mind this evening, and I have been thinking, what exactly is love? Because love is not necessarily nurturance or compassion. Sometimes love is a very, very hard, difficult thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do remember where I said that nurturing fits in, don't you? I mean, nurturing is the feminine energy that you get, okay? Being receptive, being intuitive, being expressive, all that good stuff. That's the feminine energy that comes out of your being, your feminine side, your masculine side. So um, that's not love. That's your aspects. That's the feminine aspect of your being. That's why you do it. It's the feminine part of you, and males can do it just as well as females. That's why a male loves his child. You know what I mean? It's the feminine aspect of him. There's nothing masculine going on there when it comes to the love of a father with his children. You know what I mean? That's all feminine. And I think that's what's hard for people to understand, you know. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
you see it.
I see. So you see that as being an expression of your feminine side. Okay.
Right. Now, love is an inside job, all right? Everybody thinks that whenever you fall in love, it's because some outside force just influenced you and everything. You are the one who feels love. I am the one who feels love. Okay? Nobody makes me feel love. Nobody makes me feel hate. I feel love. I feel hate. Okay? Now, whenever you go into relationships that aren't so great and they fall apart, it's usually because it's a one-sided deal there, you know. I felt love, she didn't. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that's where a lot of people have frustrations too, is because they can't accept that. It's like nothing magical happens when you fall in love. It's what you feel, and it's hard for people to handle that because they've never been raised that way. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about love when it comes to that. Now, um, I don't believe in like true love. You got that one person hiding out there, you know, that just is perfectly made for you. I'm pretty sure I fell in love quite a few times. It's just it wasn't a two-way street, you know. And that's one reason why I'm very picky about the relationships I do get into now. You know, I've said it in the past, I'm celibate now, you know, and I chose to be that way for a reason, and it wasn't because of the other people, it was because of my decision making, you know. So, um, and that was a personal decision I made on my own, you know.
Yes.
So that's my take on love.
Mm.
So don't hate me too much.
I don't hate you at all. I think it's
No.
very interesting. Interesting. But there's more to love than the feelings, Roger. Like, like when you're bringing up a kid, you sometimes have to act like in a way that's not all sort of lovey and sweetie. You've got to be like strict and disciplined as well.
Hmm.
So there's a real aspect of rational thought that goes along with love, as well as just the feelings, don't you think?
Well, you just said exactly what I said a second ago. Love is a mix of the two, both the feminine and the masculine aspects. Okay, you you can't love your kids if you don't discipline them when they do wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about butt whippings. I know people, when first time you say frickin' discipline, everybody say, "Oh, I don't spank my kids." I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about disciplining your children. You know, you got to tell them, look, this is wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's the masculine side of your being. That's not the feminine side. And I think that it takes both the masculine and the feminine when it comes to love. And it to me, I'm not saying that there isn't something special about the what love is. I'm just saying that it's not an outside job, it's an inside job. It's something within you, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to try to explain what it is because, you know, I mean, to each their own. What I feel is love might not be the same as what somebody else does, so.
Yep.
Especially teenagers.
especially teenagers.
John, John just giving that scouring look. He's thinking. I really like your background, by the way. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very awesome. Is that a Discord one?
Yeah, there's loads of them. You could have it on yours. You
Oh,
go
really?
in your video settings, yeah, and they're all there. There's loads of them.
Huh.
I don't know if I can. Hang on. I got to turn the camera off to show you. Hang on. When I turn it back on, I'll try a different one now. I have this one. Just there we are. This is called Discord the Movie.
Oh,
So, there's loads of them. There's about 10 of them, I think. I'm not sure if you can use your own as well. I don't know. My dog is barking now. I don't know if you can hear him.
Oh, really?
He's barking with a neighbour dog across the road.
Now, before we go any farther, I'm gonna let you guys know we did have a couple messages. They were just general messages on the chat. Callerway7 said hello, guys. John responded to him and said hello, and so did I. And Dingo Dave said that he chooses his good side, and I replied to him, and so did John. We said, I said I agree to Dingo Day, and I do the same, and so did John. He said same, but we need both to exist. That's what John said. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, the reason I said that is let's tell you this now. I got an apple tree outside of my house, and for years it's been like nettles and stuff around it. It's just been impossible to sort it out because the way it was, where it was, and what have you. And recently, last year, we did. And that tree has always been strong, always been like, and it would like nothing would ever blow it over. But now all the nettles have gone. You can see it's really weak now because it's got no nettles. It's surviving on its own, and it's struggling. And I think it's going to end up being blown down one of these days. But while all the nettles all the badness is there, all the nettles around it, it kept it upright. So that's why I said good. Sometimes you need good. Needs bad sometimes, not always, but sometimes it does. You can still be a good person, yes, you've got to strive to be a good person, but sometimes you need the badness can help you to be strong, in a sense, not from me being bad yourself, just like the badness around you, you know what I mean? That's what I mean, not you actually being evil yourself, in a sense, bad yourself, just sometimes the conflict, so to speak, can make you can raise the strongest flower, so to speak, you know. That's what I mean. So,
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. That's another aspect that we could maybe look at next week.
Yeah.
Is how the good and bad, like some bad things actually really do work.
Yeah.
To make things better in a strange way.
Well, yeah, I would definitely say that. Yeah. Sure.
I agree. Like duality, especially. We were talking about that before, where we were talking about two opposites can't occupy the same space, but they're both there for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, and Zoroastrianism is something that I mentioned to John earlier in chat too. You know, that's just one big dualist topic all by itself. If you get into talking about it, it would blow your mind what their whole belief system was. Like, you could go on forever just discussing it. It's that complex. Ahura Mazda, have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't.
It's pretty hardcore stuff right there.
Gosh, how fascinating. So we're going to be unpacking a lot of these concepts over the next few weeks.
Yep. It's going to be good.
It is going to be really good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we started a little bit late, but I think that we do need to really wrap it up and move on to the next set of projects that we have lined up. I know that you've been very busy, John. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And again, thank you very, very much indeed for allowing us to stream this to the wonderful world of weirdness. It's a real great honor to be part of your community. So yeah, thank you.
It was a privilege too being on your first episode here for Duality too, bobdub. You did a really great job. Thank you for letting me be on here with you.
Well, Roger, thank you for helping me, for setting it up for me, for encouraging me, for giving me the shove out of the nest that I need. It wouldn't have happened without you. So, really, from
It wouldn't
the
have
bottom of my
happened.
heart, thank you so, so much.
Wouldn't have happened without John, man. He's a bomb over there. He
He-
really is.
If only people had seen this, like about an hour ago. It's not working. I'm on a camera. What's going on? The audience out there. It was like, when they see we should have like a highlight show of the stuff that they don't see. I think that would actually go down very well as well.
Yeah,
You know, the outtakes.
we got it
So-
though. We got it.
Yeah.
We're getting there 1 minute at a time, but we're getting there. Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. Really, really great show. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. And thanks for your comments and your participation. It was great. And yeah, we'll be back again next week. So until then, cheerio.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.